Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to our seventh Community Town Hall regarding redefining our schools. I'm Valerie Wanza. I have the privilege of serving as the district's Deputy Superintendent, Chief of Staff. Before we begin our conversation this evening, some of you may notice already, we do have interpretation services available. So at this time, we will ask our interpreters to please come to one of the floor mics and please explain the services that you are available to provide this evening.
Hello, I'm Gabriel Silva. I'll be the interpreter for Portuguese to English. Oi, meu nome é Gabriel. Sou intérprete de português e inglês. If anybody needs a transmitter, we'll be up here in the front row. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Natalia. Hola a todos, soy Natalia. I'm going to be providing translation in Spanish if needed. Voy a estar dando traducción en español si lo necesitan. If you require a transmitter, just come see us. Si usted necesita un transmisor para que le hagamos la traducción, por favor, venga ahorita.
Hi, my name is Jordan, and I'm partnered with Facey here. We're providing sign language interpretation. So if there are any deaf or hard of hearing people, please come sit towards the left side.
There we go. That's the way to begin the evening. Okay, thank you. So we'd like to express our sincere gratitude and thanks to the Deerfield Beach High School community for opening up their doors and hosting tonight's Community Town Hall. To bring us greetings on behalf of the school, it would be only fitting that the individual who is always bursting and cannot hide his buck pride, the great principal here at Deerfield Beach High School, Mr. John Marlowe, to please come.
Thank you, Dr. Wanza. And again, my name is John Marlowe, the proud principal of Deerfield Beach High School, and we are the home of the Bucks. I am going to take a moment to brag a little bit about the school. We have two outstanding magnet programs of International Baccalaureate, and we also have Communications and Broadcasting. And we do pride ourselves to having one of the largest CAPE Academy programs here in Broward County where students earn an industry certification. And I got to tell you, with these programs, I honestly can feel that when a student walks into Deerfield Beach High School, there is something here for everybody. They walk out, we're one of the leading schools with accelerated coursework here, and it's just proud to be the principal of not only the best high school in the district, but the best city in Broward County. I would like to welcome everyone here, everybody from the community members to elected officials, to Ms. Rupert, our District 7 board, our at-large board member, Ms. Hickson, Deputy, the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Hepburn, and then all the elected officials that are here from Deerfield Beach and surrounding areas, and of course, all the district personnel. With that said, I'm going to bring up one of our outstanding ROTC students who is actually a finalist for the ROT Scholarship, Bruno Labata, and he's going to lead us in the presentation of colors.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. So again, we thank everyone for joining us tonight. Before we get started, we would like to give you somewhat of a roadmap of what you can expect during your time here this evening. In a few short moments, Mrs. Rupert, the District 7 school board member, will come and bring greetings, and she will also, again, introduce her colleague joining her here tonight. Following her greetings, our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Hepburn, along with the South Regional Superintendent, Mr. Strauss, will walk us through the superintendent's considerations as well as some other relevant data and information around tonight's conversation. We would like to tell you that the presentation that they will share and they will explain in a very detailed manner, is available on the district's website at browardschools.com/redefining. Again, the PowerPoint presentation is online at browardschools.com/redefining. Following a detailed explanation of the presentation, you will then have an opportunity to provide feedback in an online survey format, as well as here in person tonight. So with that, we will begin by asking Mrs. Rupert if she would please come and give her greetings.
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to be in Deerfield. It's always a great day to be here, and it's always a great day to have Buck Pride. I would like to welcome you and to also acknowledge some of the commissioners that are here this evening. We have Commissioner Todd Drodsky. If you want to give us a wave, we love Todd. And we have Commissioner, one of my very favorites, love him too, Ben Preston. And I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge Ed Phillips, former commissioner of Pompano Beach, also loved. And I welcome to the parents, the students, and I also welcome community members. This is your talk, and we're here to listen because this district needs a change, but we don't want to push our thoughts into what it needs to be. This is all about community and what is best for your community. So I also want to welcome Debbie Hickson, our vice chair. I think we did that already, but I had to say it again. And off we'll go with our superintendent. We love him too, Dr. Hepburn.
Good evening. Thanks for attending tonight's Redefining Town Hall. Tonight we will review my considerations for redefining BCPS, which will involve a change of grade level configurations, lease or sale of properties, change of school boundaries, public-private partnerships, merge or combine schools, converting schools to full choice programs, repurposing schools, and also closing of schools. The considerations that we will present to you involve reviewing feedback from our initial community conversations and reviewing a myriad of trend data that informed our key criteria to ultimately develop these considerations. These considerations focus on regaining students from competing non-district operated schools in areas with a large and increasing amount of students. These considerations also include a mixture of closings and repurposing of schools for areas with declining student enrollment. These considerations we are presenting will address our ability to maximize district funding by creating recurring revenue by recapturing student enrollment, maximize our utilization of school space, sell and or lease of land to increase our fund balance and address other district priorities, public-private partnerships to increase collaboration for common community and school district interests. Tonight, we welcome your feedback and understand that feedback is truly a gift when addressing complex challenges. We have received great input and feedback from previous town halls to include questions and concerns about closures, choice programs, facilities, faculty and staff, and much more. I also continue to receive feedback from all of our board members, including Ms. Rupert, who represents this district. The abundance of feedback continues to inform revisions for final recommendations to be presented to the school board on May 14th. Please welcome Mr. Alan Strauss, our South Region Superintendent, as he starts the presentation of the considerations.
Thank you, Dr. Hepburn. Above us tonight, you have the overview of the agenda for tonight's presentation. We're going to go over innovation zones with you. We will also go over the criteria, the data points, and I will explain that further in detail. We will then move into the superintendent's considerations. And then after we get through the superintendent's considerations, we'll go to show you what a total district realignment is, and I will speak to that when we get to that point. And finally, the last two things will be sharing the timeline with everybody, and then, as Dr. Wanza mentioned, getting to the feedback portion of this presentation. Throughout the district, we have 28 innovation zones. On April 16th, the superintendent presented to the school board this map that you see here tonight, and with some color-coded clustering of innovation zones. In addition, as he just mentioned, the potential considerations which he just went over. So this was something that was presented on April 16th, and as we've done each evening, we will walk through each of the cluster of zones and after we get through the criteria. So the initial criteria that we looked at, data points, the first one up there is this year's current benchmark enrollment. That's also called the 20-day count. It's how many students are enrolled at any given school on the 20th day of school. The next item that we consider as a data point is the utilization of permanent capacity at any given school. So for instance, if a school is 1,000 seat capacity and 700 students attend, therefore 700 divided by 1,000 is 70%, so that capacity would be at 70%. The next item is school grade, looking at it from a 5-year average. Then we dug a little bit deeper into the enrollment concern and said, identified schools that enrollment or seat capacity percentage is below 55%. Then the next item is very important. It's the sufficient adjacent permanent capacity. And to explain that, what we have to do is say we identify a school that might fit a whole lot of criteria and we are considering closing that school. One of the main criteria is, are the surrounding schools around it capable to absorb the school's students? So just give you an example, if an elementary school that we're considering closing had 400 students, do those surrounding elementary schools that are in close by proximity, can they absorb the 400 students? If they cannot, it's difficult to consider closing that school because therefore where are we going to place all the students? Another item that we looked at is historical significance. The example that I've used throughout the 7 town halls is Attucks Middle School. Back when it first opened, it was Attucks High School, actually. And then in the late 60s, it closed down for a year, and it reopened as Attucks Junior High, subsequently coming to become Attucks Middle School. So there's a historical significance down there in the Hollywood area, the Liberia section around Attucks Middle School, and there's a far number more of schools within our district that have that historical significance. The last two items, we further looked at school grade concern, not just the 5-year average. We also looked at looking to see, are there any F or D schools or very low C schools that might be considered? And finally, is the age of the facility. There are some campuses on which we have buildings that were pre-1960 built, which puts the age of the facilities at over 65 years old. So moving on to the superintendent's considerations. The first group of zones that we're going to talk about this evening are the Everglades, Flanagan, and West Broward zones. The schools that are impacted due to the considerations are up here on this slide. If you look towards your far right, you have Pines Middle. The consideration for Pines Middle is grade reconfiguration. Just to explain, Pines Middle School is a traditional bounded 6 through 8 middle school. Has a little over 600 students. However, that campus can house up to 1,700 students. So it is definitely not enrolled anywhere near capacity. So the consideration there is to, what we do is we look throughout the district and say, is there any programs that we can replicate that are highly successful? And we turn a little bit to the west from here, or a little bit west, maybe southwest from here, to Tamarack and looked at Millennium Middle School. At Millennium Middle School, a few years ago, we converted it to Millennium Collegiate Academy 6 through 12. So we converted that school from a standard middle school to a 6 through 12 collegiate academy. And to just say it's been successful is an understatement. Last week, U.S. News and World Report ranked them the #2 school in the state of Florida. And so seeing the success of that program, The consideration for Pines Middle is to convert that in a similar fashion, so we have one on the north side of the district, we would have one on the south side of the district. The next school I'm going to talk about is in the bottom middle here, Silver Shores Elementary. Silver Shores Elementary sits with about a little over 300 students and a capacity of 800. Once again, significantly under-enrolled. It is a traditional K-5 bounded elementary school. The consideration there is to repurpose it into a full-choice school. And just so I can fully explain, a full-choice school, when we say that, is a school in which there's no boundary to the school. Students have to apply to get into the school, and then in this case, we're also looking at converting it to a K-8 program, so it would be a full-choice K-8 program. And the example that I would give in regards to full choice up in this neck of the woods would be at Pompano Beach High School, where students have to apply to get into Pompano Beach High School, and it doesn't matter where you live, you can gain entrance. The same thing for Silver Shores. For the K-8 students, they would have to apply to receive entrance into the school. In doing so, we would have to, as I mentioned before, can the surrounding schools absorb those students? In this case, they can. Silver Palms, Panther Run, and Silver Lakes would absorb those students through boundary change and program shifts into their schools. Dr. Hepburn?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Strauss. Okay, mic's on. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Strauss. So in this area, this is an area that has an abundance of students. It's not an area with declining enrollment. In this area, students or parents are not choosing us as their choice. So as I was telling somebody earlier, it wouldn't be wise for us to close schools in this area. The better option is for us to compete, replicate programs that are actually working and having great outcomes, such as Millennial 6 through 12, and also providing more innovating programs and learning opportunities so we can recapture students. And in that process, when we recapture students and increase our enrollment in these schools, it creates reoccurring funding for the district or reoccurring revenue instead of closing a school in this area. So that's the focus here, is to take advantage of the opportunity of recapturing students by competing better and offering more innovating solutions.
So the next cluster of zones are the Hallandale, Hollywood Hills, and South Broward zones. I'm going to start on the bottom right with Hollywood Central Elementary. Hollywood Central Elementary is a traditional bounded K-5 elementary school. They have definitely some low enrollment. They're about in the 300 range. Student population can hold over 600 students. About 5 years ago, the residents within that boundary asked the district to convert it from a K-5 bounded school to a K-8 bounded school. At that time, the district did not entertain that as an option. However, now the consideration that Dr. Hepburn has on the table is to do what the residents wanted and to convert Hollywood Central from a K-5 into a K-8, keeping the boundary and having the students there. And just to give you an example of enrollment trends, in that boundary, there's 330 students that live in that boundary that would be in currently grades 6th, 7th, and 8th grade for the middle school. Out of those 330 students, only 75 of those students attend the school that they were bounded for within that boundary. So we can recapture almost over 250 students back potentially. There's a lot of charter competition right there in the southeast Hollywood area. Literally 2 blocks away from Hollywood Central sits a K-8 charter school there. Moving up a couple above it, to Olson Middle School. At Olson Middle School, they have about 600 students and a capacity of just under 1,200 students. In addition, the consideration there is to potentially close that school. In order to close that school, we would have to absorb the students in the neighboring middle schools, in this case being Addix Middle School, and then, as I mentioned, Hollywood Central would be a K-8, which would receive some of the students, and then McNichol Middle School as well. And there's room there to house all the students. And just to give you an example, between the 3 traditional middle schools on the screen here, there's 3,600 seats. However, there's only 1,800 students attending those 3,600 seats. So there's plenty of space to absorb those students from Olson Middle School into those two schools, as well as the Hollywood Central. Also, at Olson Middle School, for that purpose, we would look to move district administrator and district staff into Olson Middle School. That would allow us to free up space potentially in our Arthur Ashe building, which is off of Sunrise and 95, which hosts our workforce education programs, and actually give more space to our workforce education programs, which can then grow their revenues. The staff then would leave Arthur Ashe, potentially could move to a campus such as Olson, and we could better utilize the campus there. The next one I'm going to look at and speak to is right below Olson, is Oak Ridge Elementary. Oak Ridge Elementary is a traditional K-5 bounded school. Their enrollment sits about 76%, so enrollment's not necessarily a concern. However, they've received a D school grade the last 2 years, and they've been a C, and then a D, and then a C, and then a D. And you'll hear Dr. Hepburn speak a little bit about the yo-yo effect that we see in some of our schools. The consideration there is to close the school. Oh, I apologize. In addition to that, the school also has some buildings that are located on their campus that were built before 1960, so that is another factor with Oak Ridge. So the consideration is to close Oak Ridge Elementary and absorb the students within Bethune Elementary, Hollywood Hills Elementary, and Colbert Elementary. In addition to that, Sterling and Collins Elementary will get some boundary adjustments just to make the boundaries more sensical. There's boundaries that are in Collins where the student actually lives closer to Sterling Elementary than it does to Collins, and they would have to literally drive past I-95 to get to Collins, where they could drive probably a half mile to get to Sterling. So we're going to shore up some of those boundary issues there. Dr. Hepburn?
Yes, so this is more of a mixed option where we're leveraging some innovative programs and also giving the community something they've asked for some time, which is turning that K-5 Hollywood Central Elementary into a K-8 to recapture some students that are not choosing us as their option right now in that region. Also maximizing our utilization of school space. A middle school has to close in this area. We got about 3,600 or so open middle school seats, and only 1,600 students are attending the combination of the 3 middle schools in that area. So middle school has to close to maximize our utilization of space, because it's getting to a point where we can't leverage the right opportunities for our kids when they're so spread out and the cost is so much with the operation of a school. Something secondary that we're going to be doing too, and Mr. Strauss mentioned that yo-yo effect. We do have a few elementary schools in this area that experience up and down student performance, and we want to create an opportunity where they have sustainable and continuing progressively going up student performance. So we're going to evaluate all of these programs as far as what type of programs they're offering at their schools, making sure it's the right fit, it's addressing the needs of the students, it's innovating, it's providing the best learning opportunities so we can create some sustainable opportunities for students in those schools.
So the next cluster of zones are the Dillard and South Plantation zones. The schools impacted for the considerations there are on this screen. I'm going to start off pretty much in the middle with Broward Estates Elementary. Broward Estates Elementary has a student population of around 250 students. The capacity of the school sits a little above 500, so it is definitely under-enrolled. In addition, Broward Estates school grades definitely have some concerns, as well as the facility itself. The consideration there is to close the school and absorb those students in the surrounding elementary schools that you see on the screen: Plantation, Dr. Martin Luther King, Thurgood Marshall, Sunland Park, Westwood Heights. However, for the campus of Broward Estates, the possibility is to convert it into an early learning center for our 0 to 4-year-old future students to better prepare them to enter into our kindergarten, ultimately with the goal of being able to read by the time they walk into first grade. So it would allow us an opportunity in this central portion of the district to provide an early learning center, which we found successful at our Gulfstream Early Learning Center, which is down in Halladale Beach. Also on this slide to do so, Sunland Park Academy right now is a K-3 program. Actually, they at one point had a poor school grade, and the state required us to change the configuration, and we changed it to a K-3. However, they've rebounded very nicely, and we feel that it's time to move them back to a traditional K-5 bounded school. So that's in the mix there on this page. And finally, in the mix is for Martin Luther King Montessori Academy is considering looking at possibly a program change with that Montessori. Dr. Hepburn.
Yeah, so Broward Estates, definitely one of the not recommendations, but considerations right now to close. Providing some different type of opportunities with some potential nonprofits that may have some interest in supporting us in this work by offering that early learning center opportunity at 0 to 4. Like Mr. Strauss said, we want kids, when they're leaving first grade, to already be reading. And many of the teachers who are probably in the room right now, we know that if a student isn't reading by third grade, it's filling the gap every year after that to try and catch them up. So we want to give them a head start to make sure they're proficient in literacy. And again, we have some schools that do experience that up and down yo-yo effect when it comes to student performance, and evaluating those programs, making sure they're the right fit, they address the right needs for our students, and it creates sustainable results so those students and those communities can continue to experience some positive outcomes year after year.
So the next two zones are Fall Lauderdale and Stranahan zones. The impacted schools shown on the slide here, we're going to start on the bottom middle there with Virginia Schumann Young Elementary. Virginia Schumann Young is a full school choice elementary school with just under 700 students and a capacity of 700, so it is at capacity. But we also sits in a neighborhood where a lot of the students that live in that neighborhood attend private school. So therefore, the consideration is to take the Montessori full choice school program, move it over to Bennett Elementary. Bennett Elementary is definitely an under-enrolled school, but in addition, it sits next to Sunrise Middle School. Like, they literally share a fence line. And Sunrise Middle School is the district middle school Montessori program. So you could have a K-5 and a 6 through 8, or basically a K-8 Montessori campus there between the two schools. Virginia Schumann Young would shift into a bounded elementary school, traditional elementary school, and service the neighborhood there and attract back students potentially from private schools. Over towards the left, you see North Fork Elementary. North Fork Elementary is a school that sits right on Broward Boulevard, just east of 95. Like, you literally get off of 95, the first light, boom, is the campus of North Fork Elementary. So we have a lot of parents that commute down to downtown to work. And so this would allow them to commute downtown, drop their child off, change it into a full choice school. Once again, parents would have to apply to gain entrance for their student there, but they would then be able to drop their child off, go to work, get done with work, come back, pick up their child, and go on home. And maybe if you're up and down the I-95 corridor, and working there, you could also just hop off at Broward, hop back on. And so we feel that that would definitely be something that is a need for this area. In order to do so, the students at North Fork, we would have to have some reboundary of Walker and Northside Elementary. And I failed to mention earlier when I was talking about Virginia Schumann Young, that would require a little slight boundary change to Harbordale Elementary. Dr. Hepburn?
Yep, so I think the two primary issues here is Bennett Elementary and North Fork Elementary, and really shoring up Bennett Elementary by increasing their enrollment, by putting something innovating in there that the parents and the community members want. That would attract more kids to that school due to under enrollment. Also, with North Fork, transitioning that to a full choice school, possibly having opportunities with organizations like the Museum of Discovery and Science, leveraging some more innovating solutions that are more appealing, addressing specific needs now, and also for that area, for the kids that actually sit in that neighborhood, ensuring that they have priority choice to attend that school so they can leverage those same opportunities too. And whilst, like I said earlier, giving an opportunity to evaluate what we're offering at Walker Elementary and Northside Elementary, just to make sure it's the right fit, it's addressing the right needs, so we create sustainable performance for those students too as we move forward.
So the last set of zones, but not least, trust me, it's just the order in which the presentation was made, are the Deerfield Beach and Monarch zones. And here, we're not dealing with an enrollment issue up in the northeast segment of the district. Really, we're looking at opportunities for public-private partnerships at some of these campuses that are shown on the screen, and I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Hepburn.
Yep, so as Mr. Strauss mentioned, this is an area that's continuously growing. One of the few areas in the district where we have tons of people continuing to move in. As I visit these schools, I constantly see parents actually enrolling their kids throughout the year in many of these schools in this area. But we do have some opportunities for public-private partnerships, and some organizations have expressed some interest in supporting us in those opportunities, and they can work through the district processes to take advantage of that. And that's with Quiet Waters. There's some possible land use portions around that school, as well as also Tedder Elementary. Deerfield Beach, mainly it's updating that historical building that's on campus, where people have expressed some interest in supporting us in that work.
The last thing for consideration by the superintendent are district-owned properties. The top two house employees. That's the school board headquarters, as well as what's called the TSSC Annex, which houses employees as well. So the thought there is to determine whether or not we can relocate employees, and then either, as he's mentioned at the beginning, to sell or lease that property. In addition to the two properties that have employees there, we also have vacant land properties throughout the district, as you see up above me. And that would be also available, that district could work with whomever's interested in either purchasing or leasing those properties. And I'm going to hand off to Dr. Hepburn.
Yes, thank you. So these properties are definitely an opportunity that the board can leverage to build our fund balance through sale or lease. Also address some of our district priorities in the future, which we have many. We are no different than your personal finances. If a person is living close to living check to check, one or two emergencies can really put your finances in the red. And that's the same issue with us that could happen. If we have a couple of emergencies, we can definitely our finances can go in the wrong direction, and we're not as solvent as we can be. So this is an opportunity where we can work with the board to leverage some sale or possible lease of land to really shore up some of our financial issues and address some district priorities.
So now I'm going to move into the total district realignment. I want to start off, I'm going to say it a couple of times. This, what I'm showing you, is not part of the superintendent's considerations. And just to repeat it one more time, what I'm about to show you is not part of the superintendent considerations. Basically, what it is looking at our district as a whole and saying to ourselves, we have 200,000 students that need 200,000 seats. And how can we look at our buildings and match them up so we are best utilizing our schools and having it as high utilization as possible, obviously 100 being the highest. So can I have a student, can I have a seat, and what does that look like? So we have, in the elementary school, we have roughly 85,000 students, and our average number of seats in an elementary school is 814. Once again, average. We have some elementaries that have 1,000 seats, we have some elementaries that have 600 seats, but the average sits around 814. When you divide the 85,000 by the 814, you get 105 schools. So relatively speaking, to house all our kindergarten through 5th grade students, we would need 105 schools. Yet, we have 137 elementary schools in this district. That means 32 of those schools could, I'm saying the word could, close. And you would still have seats to occupy for the 85,000. At the middle school, doing the same formula, you would need 29 middle schools, but we have 37, so we could reduce by 8. At the high school, you would need 25, and we have 27, and you could reduce by 2 for a grand total, as you see above me, of 42. Once again, just looking at it simply, every child having a seat in a school. Although doing so, the top bullet would be eliminating excess seat capacity. So like I said, if we did all that, we would be really close to 100% seat capacity. 99.8, 99.9% across the board in all our schools because we would have 42 less schools. But in order to do that, if we're getting rid of 42 schools to do that, we would have to redraw all school boundaries. Because you literally would have to measure out and say, this is how many students are going to this school, this is how many students are going to this school. We'd have to redraw all the boundaries. Because we're as close to 100% as possible, we also would potentially have to eliminate all our magnet programs because magnet programs are used to attract students to the school. Well, how can I attract students to the school when I don't have any seats to attract them to? Next is school choice and reassignment. Many parents utilize the reassignment process to either relocate their student near maybe their work, maybe near their grandparents. We have staff, teachers that relocate or reassign their students to go to school in the local feeder pattern of their school, elementary, middle, high schools, because they want the proximity to them. Unfortunately, we would not be able to do that under this plan because we would not have the seat available at any of the schools. What that would wind up doing is potentially increasing the loss of student enrollment. And in this case, the increase is not necessarily, was not a good thing because you're increasing the loss. Because a parent might say, hey, I want my child to go to this school. They can't get in because there's no seats. And they're like, okay, I'm going to go to a charter or private school. And that's just not something that we want. Dr. Hepburn?
Yeah, so this option or plan that Mr. Strauss just detailed, the benefit would be full classrooms, could recover tens of millions of dollars, but one of the limiting factors here of downfalls is definitely you lose a lot of choice opportunities for our students. So they wouldn't be able to explore or engage in their student interest activities or choice programs. So that would definitely be one of the downfalls with such a process, and it could be very disruptive also with district-wide rebounding process.
So the last thing that I'm going to be speaking about here is the timeline. So we started last Monday night, April 29th, with our town halls or community meetings, this being the last one tonight. It will lead up to May 14th. At May 14th, the superintendent will take the considerations, taking the feedback and the considerations, he will change them into recommendations. And at May 14th, he'll present to the school board his recommendations at the board workshop. And just to be clear, the board workshop is not a place where the board members can take action on any items. It is not something that they could vote on or anything of that nature. What they're going to do is provide him with feedback in regards to his recommendations. And just so we're fully aware, on May 14th, the meeting's going to take place at Plantation High School starting at 5 p.m. And I'll repeat that again. The meeting will take place at Plantation High School beginning at 5 p.m. After the May 14th board workshop and the feedback that gets from the board, Dr. Hepburn, once again, will hone those recommendations and come up with final recommendations and present final recommendations on June 18th to the board. That is a normal, regular school board meeting on June 18th. Depending on what happens there, and let's just say the board approves his final recommendations, I just want to be very clear that they will not start the following school year. They will not start in the 24-25 school year. The 24-25 school year will be a transition planning year, and then in the 25-26 school year would be the implementation year. So once again, next year, everything would stay the same. Even if a school is to be closed, the school would not close next year. It would close the year after in 25-26. And
All right,
if you have
so,
anything on there,
yes,
Dr. Hepburn.
before Dr. Wanza walks us through how we're going to receive feedback from the public that's present and also the public that's watching us on live stream. This is the 7th town hall, so we've been on the road. This is 7 town halls in 10 days. Mr. Strauss, Dr. Wanza, thank you. You guys have been troopers through all of this and supporting this process. But I do want to express, as I said before, feedback is a gift. We value your feedback, and we've been receiving great feedback from every town hall. We've received great feedback through the survey she's going to walk through. We've received great verbal feedback from the mics. We've also received feedback through emails and also phone calls. We definitely review all of that information, and we've been using it throughout to make our revisions and our recommendations that we're going to present to the board on May 14th. So I want to express that you please engage if you're here in the, live and in living color right here in the auditorium, or if you're watching live on the live stream. So we really appreciate your feedback. It has helped us to refine and revise our considerations into recommendations, and so we're looking forward to what you provide tonight to us as we finalize our considerations into recommendations to present to the school board next week.
Thank you, Dr. Hepburn, Mr. Strauss. So now it's time for you to provide that feedback that is very much valued and considered a gift. On the screen, you see a QR code that you can access via your phone. We also have individuals walking up and down the aisles that you may access an online survey. The questions that are included in the survey are listed on the screen. We will tell you now, when you get to the question that says, do you prefer the superintendent's consideration or total district realignment? There is not a third option to say neither. However, you do need to select from one of those two to proceed to the next question. We will not hold it against you, depending on what you decide. But let's say you say, actually, I really don't prefer either. I have something else I want them to consider. Then that is what you would enter in the fourth question that is an open response. And you can actually elaborate or provide any other feedback that you would want the superintendent, the school board members, district staff to hear and consider. So again, when you get to that question, you do have to pick one to proceed, but then when you get to the next question, which is the open-ended question, there you can have an opportunity to expound a little bit further. So I'm going to pause right there for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to allow you. Oh, yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Ms. Rupert.
Sorry, Dr. Strauss, sorry. Mr. Strauss, on slide 19, the impact of total district realignment, he did say that that was not the superintendent's recommendation. I want to be on the record to say that's not the board's recommendation either. We have not discussed that option. So just to be clear, because God knows that's why you elected me, I just wanted to set that record straight, okay? And we definitely want to hear your ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rupert. So again, we'll pause for about 90 seconds to 2 minutes to allow you to think through and respond to those questions, and then we will begin the verbal feedback at the mics. Okay, so if we had any members of the audience who came in after the conversation began, The entire presentation from tonight is online at browardschools.com/redefining. I did see some people taking pictures with their phones, but the entire presentation is online at browardschools.com/redefining. Now we are going to begin receiving verbal comments from you here in the auditorium. If you are interested in speaking, we ask that you begin to line up here at one of the two mics in the aisles. We will set the timer, and I believe we're going to set it at I believe we're going to set it at 2 minutes per speaker. I would like to just ask that you, please ma'am, please sir, please use your time. You will not be allowed to defer it to someone else. And if you hear comments that you support or that you would like emphasize, we ask that you please use your visual applause so that we can hear each speaker's comments. So with that, sir, we will start with you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dan Hers. I'm a concerned Deerfield Beach taxpayer. And my question is, your criteria for redefining looks solely quantifiable. What other, if any, non-quantifiable considerations will you use in making your final decisions on redefining? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your input. And just as a reminder, we are receiving feedback. We will not engage in the two-way dialogue. This is really to receive feedback. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good evening. My name is Barbeth Foster. I am a parent of a Broward School student. I was really surprised. I've seen several of these presentations online before coming tonight. I haven't heard anything about teacher retention and staff retention and recruiting, and that we all know, you're not living under a rock. You know that Florida just ranked dead last in the nation for teacher pay. And I'm just surprised to not hear about more innovative solutions to the problem like they're doing in Pinellas and Miami-Dade County, where if they're closing a school, they're converting it to affordable housing for teachers. They're not selling it to private developers or to commercial entities like Prodesco, which is on the slide that the county has already sold property to. So I'm just wanting to hear more about what is going to happen to the staff of these schools that are closing. What are innovative ways to bring in teachers, to recruit them if you're not going to raise teacher salary? I also think that we have a once-in-a-lifetime generational opportunity here to truly be innovative. Right now, we're competing with charter schools, but there's also something called the Inflation Reduction Act, which is being used by schools across the country for clean energy. One of the things they're actually doing is putting solar panels on schools and using the savings from that to pay teachers more money. So I'm in a presentation about innovative programs. I'd like to hear more of that innovation, more details about these public-private partnerships that seem very general right now. I'm not hearing more about the Broward Estates program that I actually think is a very innovative idea in dealing with communities that need more equity and they need students to get early education. I think that should be something that we're talking more about in these presentations, and I'd like to hear that when you make your recommendations, Dr. Hepburn. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Maria Larico. I am a taxpayer, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. So to Dr. Hepburn, I have a very different approach, and I think we're competing against tech. We're competing distant learning. There's so many opportunities that parents have to school their own children. We have a more educated community that expects a lot more. We're functioning with low standards, and to break that, we need to break the boundaries. So when we continually revisit boundaries, going on to the future, it's lacking the vision of social mobility and that class structure and the influence that has on someone that otherwise would be prevented. And that in itself is a learning experience that you don't want to cheat or deny by always going back to an old system that is broken and equated to what we've been doing since the 1900s. I'd like to see it completely scrapped. converting public schools with low attendance is self-defeating to school choice. School choice is to have the choice, and you're taking it away. So again, if we revisit what I spoke of before, you have tech, you're competing against school choice and homeschooling. And those are things that you have to incorporate on where we are today in our current environment. I think that a school should be named after Justice Clarence Thomas. I saw that we have a tennis player, and I was just thinking that it should be more uplifting to someone that's successful.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Mike Ross. I'm a parent of a Broward student. I'm also a multi-decade business owner, and I'm a former school board member in one of New York's largest school districts. This district is a $6 billion business, and a primary mission of this district is to educate over 250,000 students. Unfortunately, it has not been run like a business. The result has frankly been a train wreck. Just to name a few things, the facilities are falling apart, bond money to fix them can't be accounted for, expenses haven't been paid, now putting a hole in the budget. Senior leadership has been a revolving door. The board tends to get sidetracked on what I would call paperclip items or extreme issues that have little or nothing to do with educating the students. Frankly, the business is adrift in a sea of icebergs. Top it off, Florida is likely to get full tuition, tax voucher, school choice by 2026, either legislatively or by referendum. If nothing changes, the students or your customers are going to leave, and it's going to be, will the last one out turn off the lights? So to the parents and the residents and the taxpayers that are sitting behind me, I think a lot of people don't want to see that happen. And it's going to start by formulating and electing a school board that has business people on it, people who will run the district and oversee it by business principles. One that will hire competent senior leadership and have a focus on mission-critical objectives and hold them accountable. We need to foster a culture of excellence, and the culture needs to become the norm in everything that goes on. So, again, residents and parents, if you want to save the district, you have to fight for it, and it starts at the ballot box. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner?
Good afternoon. Congratulations, Dr. Hepburn, and thank the board for having this. I would like to ask this: what would the P3 plan actually really look like? And how might that change the landscape of a community, or how would a community be affected by the implementation of P3? During the presentation, I didn't hear anything coming from the school board to say that we're looking to invest in our children, this amount of money in the next 5 years or whatever. The challenges are, in any school system, a lack of resources, and a lot of that's monetarial. And until the decisions are made to invest money into where the problem is, we can rob Peter to pay Paul, but very little is going to be done. So what happens when we can put something on the table that says we're going to address it from this way? And I didn't hear that during the presentation, and I would greatly appreciate some consideration and a response to that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Harper?
Hey, thank you. Chuck Harper, Parkland parent, but proud Deerfield Beach parent for another month. You know, one of the biggest issues that I see is I have lots of people come up to me and ask about opportunity for their kids and providing more opportunity for our kids. And I think the district's biggest issue is marketing themselves. I mean, I get the luxury of seeing the behind the scenes on so many schools, so many high schools, and doing such great work. And I hear peep from the district. I mean, there is nothing. You know, parents want to know that there's opportunities available for their kids, that there are different directions, different career opportunities, more opportunities to get dual enrollment considerations at their local high schools. So the district really has to do a better job of marketing themselves. Otherwise, you know, left to their own devices, charters are going to take over because they do market themselves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Dr. Hepburn, congratulations. I don't know if I could say I'm happy for you or I feel sorry for you. You know, because I see how the school board operate, and good luck. But on March the 27th, the State Board of Education determined that the Broward County School Board was currently breaking state law. How do you do that? How you break state law? And $80 million to local, owes $80 million to local charter schools. How you gonna fix that? And when we got Blanche Ely still, exterior is still looking like a third world. The interior may be safe. We don't have the security is horrible. And this been going on for 10 to 20 years. Doc, the last superintendent, he couldn't do nothing. The superintendent before that couldn't do nothing. I can't say nothing about Nora Rupert because she introduced my brother, so I'm gonna give her kudos on that. But you, the truth hurts. The truth hurts, Doc. And the truth is, tax money is spent where you want, not where it's needed. Blanche Ely is in terrible condition. And then one thing you didn't touch on is the inner cities, bilingual and multicultural communities. Our schools are bilingual and they multicultural. It's not black and white anymore. We have a different generation Y coming in, a different set of children coming in, and you have to prepare for that. And you are not prepared for that because what I see, the school board is only concentrating on one direction, and you know what direction that is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Linda, and I'm a member of the community. I'm a property owner in this district, and I was just kind of concerned about the P partnership. I don't really know what that means exactly, except for you mentioned before at a different town meeting that it was for workforce housing built on some of the school properties. Just not sure if that hinders the safety of the school campuses in some way. I mean, you know, we're talking low-income housing, I would assume. That I would be concerned about that and our property values and driving people out of the community because of that. So, something I'd like to know about.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for making the time for us to talk today. I am a parent of a student, first grader, in elementary school in Broward County Schools, and I'm also an alum. So I went to Orange Brook Elementary School, and I also graduated from Nova High School. And I love this district, and I moved back here to educate my kids here. I'm also a coach for kids applying to college, and I realize how hard it is to get into college these days. We have to do better in this district to prepare them for whatever they choose to do going forward. I like the idea of having, you know, converting some of these underutilized schools for workforce housing. The teachers are being paid at the bottom, as we mentioned, and then housing is going up in South Florida. So my son is in a dual language program. He has one English teacher, one Spanish teacher. They both quit this year. He's gonna have 2 new teachers. So for that program for the first grade next year. So the point I'm trying to make is that if we don't fix this, we're gonna continue to lose the great teachers that we have, and maybe some of this workforce housing could prioritize teachers and school administrators or those that are in the education. It doesn't have to just be the teachers, the cafeteria personnel, the office as well. So that we can continue to create a system of continuity and consistency for the kids so that they can be prepared. So my thought is to have more schools like Nova. I loved going to, I think it's called a full choice school where my parents had to apply. And maybe there could be full choice schools that are, to the previous gentleman's point, that are language based. So he's in dual language Spanish. Maybe there's a Spanish, French, Portuguese. One school, 3 different tracks for the different languages. Maybe there could be one, I know this may be controversial, but religious space, because a lot of students are pulling their kids, my friends are pulling their kids out of school, sending them to Jewish schools or Christian schools or Catholic schools. Maybe if we had one school from across the county that had different tracks for the different religions. I don't know if that's possible, but something to consider.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Christy. I graduated right here, Deerfield Beach High School, many years ago. I do have a child I live in this district, but I have a child in District 3 at VSY, which is apparently in considerations. Obviously, there's some opposure to that, but this county needs some more full choice schools. The similarity between a full choice school and charter and private schools is they have to apply to be accepted into that. Therefore, that shows that the parents and the families care about their children's education, where they go, rather than just putting them in a boundary school that's next to them. When families take that initiative to apply, that means that they're looking for the betterment of their child's education. They're going to work with the school and the community to create that environment. There are 2 Montessori elementary schools that are very successful in this county. Both are on middle and south side of the county. We are talking about shutting down a Montessori school, Martin Luther King. That means we have Montessori educational material. We possibly have Montessori trained teachers. Can we consider opening up a Montessori school on the north end for us families that travel 1.5 hours round trip twice a day to take my child to and from school for an education down there? I think we need to build and learn from our top-rated schools and build off of that rather than try to move, shut them down, dismantle them. Maybe put more full-choice lottery schools in the community rather than boundary schools. Eliminate some more of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Karen Gushta, and I'm a volunteer with Florida Citizens Alliance. And although the superintendent's plan has included programs to draw students back into BCPS schools from charter schools, from private schools, Christian schools, homeschooling, et cetera, I'd like you to consider some of the reasons why maybe those parents have taken their children out in the first place. One thing that I've noted that I'm concerned about, and I'm sure parents are, is that the DOE scores for 4th grade math and ELA showed in 2022 that only 35% of students scored at the levels 4 or 5. Those are levels indicating proficiency. Secondly, the Family Life and Sexual Health, or FLASH curriculum, which is now under review, has been fashioned using a template from Advocates for Youth. Advocates for Youth is a subsidiary of Planned Parenthood. It seems to me that makes it suspect. Many parents object to SEL being infused throughout the curriculum and being a benchmark for long-range planning goals. Fourthly, the subtle inclusion of critical race theory in social studies and literature instruction is often too subtle for parents to dispute. Fifthly, there is one-sided teaching regarding Earth's origins. Sixth, no recognition of Christian holidays is present in the district's calendar of observances. I just checked it this evening. Seventh, there is absence of any curriculum that introduces students to the Bible's influence on literature and history. Is it a surprise that Christian schools have waiting lists and Christian students feel marginalized? Their views and beliefs don't count in Broward County Public Schools. Florida Citizens wants every student to achieve their full potential, but we're also into offering alternative solutions. See goflca.org/microschools.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First, I just want to say that I'm a parent at Deerfield Park Elementary, and I have a son that currently attends Deerfield Beach High School, go Bucks. All right, first I want to start with saying that I want to talk about my experience with charter because my children started in charter and now they are currently at the schools that I just previously stated. I think we can do better in terms of parental engagement. I volunteer, so I'm not just a parent just here to complain. I volunteer at both public and charter, and I've seen the difference. The charter schools, they push and push and push, hey, we need help with this, we need help with that. They want their parents in the school. I'm not really seeing that much at public. I think we can do better with that. I was very surprised when I made the switch from charter to public in regards to that. Also, I want to talk in regards to communication. Parents shouldn't have a hard time trying to find out what is going on at their child's school. Information should be easily accessible. Also, I see when we talked about the public and private partnerships, I noticed that Deerfield Park Elementary was not on there. I'm assuming it's because we don't have a land issue. I know you can't answer my questions, but I know if that can be more emphasized or more detail in regards to what that would look like, especially what that private partnership might have on that school when money is involved. Okay. And also Deerfield Park Elementary, that is my son's boundary school, but I chose to put him there because it is a performing arts school. Shout out to Deerfield Park Elementary, drumline. Also, student experience. My son, he's 15 years old, he attends here. From 1st to 7th, he was in charter school. I'll name that school, Renaissance Charter School in Coral Springs. I asked him what was his experience like. He said he felt bombarded and overwhelmed at charter. So then we made a decision together to put him in Deerfield Beach High School. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for having this forum here. I'm going to try to stay in my lane because I'd like to talk on a whole array of things. But let me start off by talking about the realignment component. I would say my question would be, and you don't have to answer, why would you put something like that out in the public? Because what you're going to do is cause people to go into panic and say it's a reality. You're going to say that they're going to get rid of, 42 schools. Now think about it. 42 schools means you have to get rid of teachers, resources, budget changes, and a whole array of things. So there are going to be some people who say that's a reality that you're doing. And then some of them are saying it now. So once again, why would you do? I'm sure you got your rationale, but I don't get it. Second of all, you keep talking about funding and money, and I'm a little confused because as I look in the city of which I live in, taxes seem to be, the marketing value of housing and buildings seem to be going up and up and up. And I don't know, the last time I looked, that meant more tax money. So I get a little confused about when you start talking about there's not enough money when around us all I can see is buildings going up and up and up and taxes going more to you guys. Second of all, I saw the 5-year plan that you were looking at. My question is, are you taking into consideration all this building and these kids that are coming into these areas? My God, in Pompano alone, we're seeing a gazillion, and relatively speaking, a number of buildings coming up and kids coming in, and there's nowhere in the world anybody can say that we're not going to have enough kids in 5 years. One other thing, because I see I'm getting my time, I love the idea of, Broward Estates, and the children from 0 to 4, please bring something like that to Pompano. The only problem with that would be is what are you going to do with the daycare centers, which would view you as competing. But I have a granddaughter. I want her to go to one of them schools, so she'll be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Tom Vasquez. I am an education advocate. I've been going to all these town halls and advocating for how we can get this done in a better way. I'm glad to see that I'm not the only former school board member. I was a school board member for probably the best public school system in the country, the military basis public schools. I also have an extensive background in business and in drawdowns, particularly in the military, where we've been part of many drawdowns, and even in corporate America, where we've done not only reorganizational restructures, but also capital restructures. And this is when you look at your top-line revenue and balance that against your leverage and against your return on investment to see if your top lines are matching up to what they should be doing. In those environments, in the halls of the Pentagon, or in any company of my colleagues out on Wall Street, this is not how you do a restructure. What you would tend to see is a course of actions, multiple course of actions with multiple choices by which you achieve a financial aim. When they go back to the drawing board, and they will, you will expect to see something like that. That way you can give better feedback. But the other part of it is that this is too big of a job, in their defense, to do it by QR codes and back at the cubes at the KC Wright building. It requires all of us. To do that, you gotta have a seat at the table. There has to be some form of getting your voice, not only parents' voice, but community voice, usually by committee. Investment committees is what you will see it called, but everybody should be part of this, because at the end of this, we have to compete. We have to compete together. So I go back and I offer that to make sure that we keep on moving in the right direction, because we all want success at the end of this. We want our kids to prosper. We want Broward County schools to prosper. And the only way we get there is together. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Grant? Yeah, it's on. Yes.
4 out of 7, see, now I can hear myself. Okay, so 4 out of 7. I want to thank you for the presentation, although data should have been a little bit more better. I think that when you have these, if by Hail Mary in June you guys don't vote on anything and we do this again or do it in some other form, I would suggest that you provide paper information to people so they can look through while they're having these conversations, while you're doing your presentation, so they can take notes and give fruitful feedback. So yeah, something like that. Thank you, Ms. Rupert. The other thing is that the 42 schools things, initially when it was put out, I was like, yeah, you know what, shut them all down. And then, you know, we can do things and be equitable. But then I thought about the choice thing and I realized that's not gonna work. In an equitable lens, in the presentation, I saw, it seems like it has something to do financially. It would have been beneficial if we understood what that financial thing looked like, so to provide to us. But equitably looking at it, it doesn't seem fair. So I just hope that you guys take this feedback and really look at making sure that some of these historical schools that, I know you said there's something about, and then another thing, I learned about the historical thing. Somebody just created that historical thing and that's not gonna work for me. If you guys are really gonna do something to make sure that these schools are historical, I hope that you're making the right research to be able to categorize those, because as far as I know, this district doesn't have a department that does that. So I just need to see the data how these schools were considered historical. And then moving forward, I think it's important that school board members, when you have your advisory committees, you lean to them, because we also represent the community at large, but also make sure that those you put on your advisory committees are here for the right reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Rupert, how are you? I would like to listen a little bit more about what is going to happen in our district, District 7. I know you work very hard for us, but I haven't heard anything much about it, more about the other districts. I thought that it was going to be more focused on our zone. And the other thing, I'm a parent, and my son is in the gifted program. I'm very concerned about it because I haven't heard anything about the gifted program and how it's going to be affected, but all this redefining. Also, as parent, I think that magnet programs are not negotiable, so you can delete that option to eliminate the magnet programs. That's not going to happen. That's the best thing Broward County Public Schools have, and that's a plus that no one else has. Also, if parents are moving the students to charters, it's not because of the curriculums. something else is happening. And I'm thinking, as parent, that is related to safety and security. Basically, my son is going to Crystal Lake. They have this amazing program, and they have a lot of issues going on in their population. I was concerned that they were the only ones, but that's not the way it is. It's happening all around our schools. So if you want the students to come back, first you have to make something about safety. That's a very important. Then we have unique programs, Ms. Rupert, in this district. Please keep them safe. Also, and I'm concerned that there are some parents and people mentioning about religions in our schools. This is public schools. They are open to all religions. If you want your children to go to learn about a specific religion, take it to the school you want. Besides that, we cannot focus on one religion because that will be discriminated, and that's against that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It looks like we have 2 speakers. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Yes, hi. Thank you for giving us the chance to speak. Parent of 2 Broward County Public School students, former high school teacher, now teaching college. So my concern, kind of piggybacking off of the last comment, is fuller schools, larger class sizes, sometimes degrades the quality of the education that the students are getting with the teachers, the time that they're getting with those valued teachers, and the time that the teachers can spend with the students. And the other issue is, of course, fuller schools could be dangerous in terms of safety. And while I applaud what the district has tried to do to increase the safety of our students, it's still not enough, and I'm sure you recognize that. And putting more students in the school doesn't solve that problem. So as a parent of a Lions Creek Middle student, the under-enrollment that Lions Creek Middle is having right now, I actually appreciate, because my son, is getting that more personalized experience, more personalized attention. And I think if it were 5 years ago, that school was jam-packed. And I don't think that's necessarily better.
Thank you. And it looks like you're our final speaker of the evening.
Hi, my name is Mary Phillips. I live in Pompano Beach, Florida. I'm part of the Markham Elementary PTA. I don't have any children in school at this time. I have a baby granddaughter that's going to be going to school soon. But you know what? When it comes to education, it's competition. You're competing with charter schools, and some people think that charter schools are much better than our public schools are. But I think there should be a ranking system, because some of these charter schools are also getting shut down because they're not performing as they're saying that they can. And so I think that the state should allow rankings to be placed on the website somewhere, so that when people are going to pick what school they want to put their child in, they can see how these charter schools rank against the public schools. Okay, so the magnet programs are great, because when my husband was in the diversity committee, that's something that they brought to fruition so many years ago, having something special for each school. So she is correct. That draws students into the school. Parkway Middle School for performing arts. I think it's great, and that's something that we should continue. Okay, but charter schools might be in trouble, and we might even be in trouble in the future, because the cost of rent in these buildings is getting to be a lot more expensive. And if we continue to let charter schools escalate, then it's going to cost us money then to put our children in school if we decide that's where we want to put them. Public schools offer an opportunity for our children to learn without us having to pay any extra money. Okay, so I think it's great that you're looking at ways to save money, because there were some mistakes made from what I read. And there's some gaps in the budget right now, and right now you're trying to fill those gaps in by doing the things that you're doing. But I anticipate in the future that we might see a few more changes coming along the way. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Before you begin to depart to your next destination, we just want to remind you that all of tonight's presentation materials are located on the district's website at browardschools.com/redefining. And at this time, we invite School Board Vice Chair, Ms. Deborah Hickson, to the stage for closing remarks.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to take an opportunity to say thank you so much for coming out this evening. We've had 7 town halls. I've been to 4 of them, and I will say the feedback from the community has been very, very important. It's been positive in a way that you're sharing with us what it is you feel your community needs. So what you've seen tonight is a first version, first draft. Based on all of the community feedback that we've gotten in the 7 town halls, we will take that back, Dr. Hepburn and his team, and they'll come up with a second version, an updated version. And that's what will be presented May 14th, so I would encourage you all to come back again on May 14th. That will be at 5 o'clock at Plantation High School, so it is in the evening. Hopefully that'll allow you more people to come and join us. And you can again give your thoughts and your opinion on things that the updated version looks like. And then there will still be more opportunities for that. You can email us any time you would like. You can also call us. There were a few things I heard tonight. There's a few things I've heard in the other places that I've gone that really are above the school board level, for example, being 50th in the state for teacher pay. So it's great you're advocating with us. I'd also encourage you to advocate at your legislative level and make sure you're letting them know that the concerns that you have and things that you would like to see changed at that state level, so that we at the local level can also make changes we can't do right now because of what's come down from the state. So again, I just would like to say thank you so much for coming out this evening. Your input is valuable to us. This is not a done deal. It is a work in progress. We appreciate the input, the comments, and your passion about wanting to make our public schools better. We're in this together. We all have the same vision. We may get to it in a different way, but we all want to see that our students are successful and good human beings. So thank you again for coming out tonight, and I guess we'll maybe see you May 14th. Thank you.